Hey guys, what's up? This is going to be an in-depth walkthrough of the new MIA Chinese Anki add-on. So I'm going to go ahead and just start a new temporary profile for the purposes of this demonstration. Now, before I actually install the add-on, I'd like to remind everyone that you have to make sure that you're on the right version of Anki before you install the add-on, because right now MIA is developing add-ons for specific versions of Anki. And the current version of Anki that we're developing our add-ons for is, if you're on a PC, 2.1.22, and if you're on a Mac, 2.1.23. So we can see if I go to help about, because I'm on a PC, I am using the Anki version 2.1.22. So I'm good to install the add-on. So yeah, just please double check that you guys are using the right version of Anki, because if you're not, then the add-on probably won't work properly. So here I have the actual file for the add-on. So I'm just gonna double click to install, click yes. And now I have to restart Anki for that installation to take effect. I'm gonna open up that profile. Okay, so we have designed this add-on so that even if you don't want to go in and figure out how all the different settings work, you still can benefit from almost all the features right out of the box. So the way this works is that once you install the add-on, 3 new note types are automatically going to be added to your collection. So if I go to Tools, Manage Note Types, we can see that there is now MIA Chinese Hong Kong, MIA Chinese Taiwan, and MIA Chinese China. So each of these note types is a little bit different. Probably obvious that MIA Chinese HK is for if you're studying Cantonese, MIA Chinese TW is for if you're studying Taiwanese Mandarin, and MIA Chinese ZH is for if you're studying mainland Mandarin. So let's just take a walkthrough of each of these note types. So let's start with MIA Chinese China, because that's probably what most of you guys are studying. So we can see that we have the expression field, meaning, traditional, audio, and audio on front. So basically, let me just show you the basics of this card type. So if I go and just do expression, meaning, traditional, audio, and then I add this card. So we can see that on the front of the card, we have what's in the expression field. On the back, we have the meaning fields, and then the traditional field, and then also audio. Now, you may have noticed that there was one additional field, which is audio on front. And the deal is, when you fill this field, then it's going to rearrange the card such that audio is on the front, and then expression, meaning, and traditional is on the back. So now let's actually show some of the features unique to the MIA Chinese add-on. So we're going to go in and make a new card. So if we paste Chinese text into the expression field, and then hit the generation button, which is this one right here. Probably should have just gone over the fact that, yeah, once you install MIA Chinese, it's going to add 2 buttons here. The first one is the generate readings button. That's why it's the character for reading. And the second one is the deletion button, which is going to remove all of the readings. And as you can see from the tooltip, the generation hotkey is F9, the deletion F key is F10. So if we go ahead and click the generation button, then we see 2 things happen. First of all, it generated pinyin readings, and second of all, it added the same sentence but in traditional characters into the traditional field. Now, you can use this generation button in any field. It doesn't have to be the expression field. So if I go ahead and paste another sentence in, for example, the audio field, and I have this field selected, this is where my cursor is, and I hit generate readings, then it's going to do the same thing. So you can generate in any field, but probably typically you'll be generating in the expression field, because that's where you're going to put the sentence if you're making a sentence card. And this card type, you could use it for a sentence card or for a vocabulary card, because whatever you put in this field is going to show up on the front. But we kind of designed it with sentence cards in mind, because, that's what we recommend the most. So as you can see, readings were added in the form of a specific syntax. So the way that the syntax works is that after every word, there are these square brackets, and within the brackets, you have just the pinyin reading and the tone, and then a space, and then the pinyin and tone for the next character. So there's just one single space to separate the readings from each character if the word is multiple characters long. If the word's 1 character long, then there aren't going to be any spaces. It's just the character, the brackets, and then the reading and the tone number. So the thing is, if we add this as a card, and then we go and actually look at it, when we view the card, on the front of the card, it's going to show up as just the text without any pinyin or tones or anything. So we can see, although the actual field that we're looking at has the syntax in it, when we view the card, the front of the card doesn't have any of that. Then when we view the back of the card, it takes that same field, but it actually adds the pinyin and color codes for tones. So the idea with the color coding for tones is that humans have very good visual memories. And so if you assign a specific color to each tone and then you color code sentences accordingly, it's going to make it very easy, pretty much effortless, to remember what the tones of words are. And in my experience, this is very effective. So this makes it super easy to color code for tones because you pretty much just will paste the text in and click the generation button and you're good to go. But the other nice thing is that because there's a simple syntax, if there is a mistake in the automatically generated readings, which there probably occasionally will be because, it's just a very simple algorithm that's adding these readings, you can edit the readings very easily just by changing the syntax. So if hypothetically this character was actually second tone, then we can see I can just change this 1 to a 2, and it changes colors and the pinyin changes accordingly. And the nice thing is the code that is translating this simple syntax into this more aesthetically pleasing pinyin and color-coded tones is JavaScript that is injected directly into the note type. And the reason why this is significant is that it's going to work equally on all platforms, including the desktop version of Anki, Anki Web, Anki Mobile, and Anki Droid. And so even on your phone, for example, if you realize that one of the tones is wrong, you can easily go into Edit Card, just change the number or just change the pinyin, and it will instantly be reflected on the card. And the other nice thing is that you don't need to have two fields, one without readings and one with readings. Instead, you can have one field and it automatically makes it so that on the front of the card, no readings are shown, and on the back of the card, readings are shown, even though it's all from one field. So how the contents of this field or any of the fields is going to actually show up on the card is determined by the specific code that's injected into the cards. Now, you can customize exactly what's going to be on the front, what's going to be on the back, and what's going to work in the settings of the add-on, but I'll get to that later. For now, I'm just going to keep showing you guys how you can use the add-on right out of the box without worrying about the settings. So yeah, we can see that when we click the generation button, it adds these readings, and it also adds the traditional versions of the characters. If we post a sentence that actually has traditional characters in it, and then we generate, it's actually going to put the simplified characters into the traditional field. So in this case, the traditional field is actually just the reverse of whatever you have in the other fields. And again, it doesn't have to be in the expression field. I could have posted a sentence in any of these fields. I could post it in the audio field, and when I generate, it's still going to stick the reverse version of the sentence in the traditional field. So here I have the simplified sentence. If I generate it, it puts the traditional sentence in the traditional field. And then if I put the traditional sentence in a field and generate, it puts the reverse in the simplified in the traditional field. So again, you'll be able to customize how this works in the settings, but for now you can just remember that the traditional field is where the reverse version of the characters is going to be placed no matter where you generate. So that's the MIA Chinese China card. So for if you're studying mainland Chinese, because it generates in pinyin and basic tone numbers. But now let's take a look at the other two card types. So if we go to MIA Chinese TW or MIA Chinese Taiwan, it's the same deal, except when we generate, instead of pinyin being generated, it's going to generate Bopomofo. Now, you'll probably notice if you're familiar with Bopomofo that this is a little bit different than traditional Bopomofo because the tones are being expressed in the form of numbers, whereas traditional Bopomofo has tones expressed as kind of little ticks that are either going up or down. And the reason why we did this is that, like I mentioned a little bit ago, sometimes the tone is going to be wrong and you're going to have to manually fix it. And it's pretty hard to type those Bopomofo tone markers. It's a lot easier to just type a Roman number. And so we kind of replaced the tones with the Roman numbers so that if you need to edit it, you can do so very easily on the fly. But if you want to, in the settings, it's possible to turn the Bopomofo that it's generated back to the original one with the tick mark. So I'll show you how to do that when we get onto the settings. Now in this mode, I think if you placed a simplified sentence and you generate, so in this one, it says simplified, and it's going to generate the simplified form of the sentence regardless of what you paste in. So if I paste in a traditional sentence and then I generate it, we can see it's going to put the simplified in the simplified field. And if I paste a simplified sentence and generate it, it's still going to put the simplified in the field. So this one is truly a simplified field. It's not just an alternate field, it's a simplified field. And I think it works the same way on the Hong Kong one as well. So but besides the difference of Bopomofo being generated and simplified always being placed in the simplified field, this card is the same as the MIA Chinese China card. And now if we go to the Hong Kong card and post in a sentence and then generate it, then we can see that it adds the jute ping for the sentence, and then it generates the simplified in the simplified field. And so because Cantonese has more tones, there's more total colors that you have to specify. And if I didn't say so already, in the settings, you can also control what the actual colors are for each tone for both Mandarin and Cantonese. And so when we go to the settings, I'll show you guys how to customize the colors as well. And again, the nice thing is if you change one of the colors, then that change is going to be instantly reflected in your deck, because the syntax that's in the field just has what tone it is, 1 through 5. In Mandarin, the number 5 is used to represent the neutral tone. I think there's 6 tones in Cantonese. I'm not totally sure. I don't know that much about Cantonese. But anyway, what's in the field is just the number. And then it's in the code in the card that tells the card what color to display each number as. So if you decide one day that actually you don't want first tone to be red, you want first tone to be pink, well, you can go and change that in the settings, and all of your cards will instantly be changed to having the first tone show up as pink, because the add-on is just going to edit the code in the card, and then the fields are going to be expressed according to the new setting. So it's really flexible. You can change it at any time and have everything be instantly reflected. So that's the basic uses of the add-on. Oh yeah, I don't know if I showed how the delete button works, but anyway, the delete button here, it just removes syntax. So if you have syntax here and you want it to go away, you click in the field and then you click the remove button. So yeah, those are the basic card types. Before I go into the settings and show you how to customize things and stuff like that, just a couple quick things I want to show you. So first of all, there's a mass generation feature. So I'm going to go ahead and just open up the Chinese spoon-fed deck real quick. Okay, so first of all, if I wanted to mass generate readings for the Chinese spoon-fed deck, well, first of all, probably going to want to convert it to the right card type, because the thing is, although you can use the Chinese add-on to generate in any field on any card, if it doesn't have the JavaScript inserted into the card type, then it's not going to show up correctly. So just to show you guys an example. So let's say I generated right here. It's going to add the pinyin and tones. But if we actually view the card, we can see that it's not actually being displayed properly. It just shows exactly what you see in the field, which is the syntax. And this is because this is not the MIA Chinese card type or note type, if I want to be precise, which has the code in the note template that's going to convert the syntax into properly formatted tones and readings. And so if we wanted to mass generate readings for this whole deck, probably what we want to do first is convert all the cards here to the MIA Chinese note type. So to do that, I can just select all the cards, right click, go to change note type. So I have to make sure they're all from the spoon-fed Chinese deck. So they're Control A to select them all. Right click, change note type. Let's change it to MIA Chinese China. I'm going to put English to meaning, pinyin to nothing, because we don't actually need the pinyin because we're going to generate it ourselves. And then Hanzu to expression, audio to audio, click OK. Okay, so now we can see that they're all in the MIA Chinese note type. And now if we want to, we can mass generate readings. So let's say that I wanted to generate readings for 1,000 of these cards. First, I'm just going to put them in order. Okay, so here's the first 1,144 cards. So if we wanted to mass generate readings for these 1,000 cards, we would go to Edit, Generate Chinese Readings. Now, the way that it's formatted here might be confusing at first, but the way it's set up is that origin is the field that it's actually going to look at. So we want it to look at the expression field because that's where the Chinese is. And then destination is where it's going to put the final result that has all the readings and tones added. So probably you're going to want the destination to be the same as the origin, because what you want, right, is for the Chinese to be in the expression field, but have the readings and tones generated. But if you wanted to, you could tell it to read from the expression field and dump in the audio on front field, for example. And then it would have the original Hanzu with no readings in the expression field, and then it would have the Hanzu with readings and tones generated in the audio on front field. But what we want is probably just to have the actual characters in the expression field with the readings. And the output mode is what it does when there's already something in the field. So if we have add, so right now there's already a Chinese sentence in the expression field of all the cards, right? So if I had add, what it would do is it would just create a new space and then it would repaste the same Chinese sentence but with readings. And so we don't want that because then we would have the sentence twice, one without readings and then one with readings. If we do if empty, then it's only going to paste the final result with the readings if the field is currently empty. So right now the expression fields are not empty, which means it would just do nothing. Whereas if we chose to have it dump the final result in the audio on front field, well, the audio on front field is empty on all these cards, so then it would work. But because we want to have the characters in the expression field and we don't want it to be duplicate, we want to do overwrite, which means regardless if there's already something in the destination field, it's going to remove what's currently there and then just post the output with the readings and tones generated. And so that is how that works. Hope that made sense. The reading type is just pinyin, bohomofo, or jukping. So let's choose pinyin. And I'll just note here that if you want to, you can use this bulk generation feature to remove readings from many cards at once as well. But in this case, we're going to add them. So I'm going to click add reading. And you're going to see it's taking a little while because we're generating for 1,000 cards at once. So I'll just fast forward until this is complete. Okay, and then we see it generated readings and tones for those 1,000 cards. And so when we view the card now, we see we have just the original sentence on the front. And then the sentence with tone colors and pinyin on the back. And now we have a really nicely formatted card. And we can see it also automatically added the traditional character version of the sentence. So that's how the bulk generation feature works. Now, one other final feature real quick before we jump into the settings that I want to show you guys is the MIA editor integration. So if you have the MIA editor add-on, make sure that you update it because we had to release an update to make it compatible with MIA Chinese. But as long as you update to the newest version that we just released, then the MIA editor add-on will be compatible with MIA Chinese. So you can see right here, if I wanted to edit this field, I can double click on it and change the syntax. It'll make more sense if we show the back. So here, if we have the sentence with the syntax, I can double click on it, change something in the syntax and click away, and then that change will instantly be reflected. Works with the persistent editor as well. Any changes that you make will instantly be reflected on the card, just like on the MI Japanese add-on. So that's pretty cool. And that's about it for the most basic features. Now let's jump into the settings and look at how we can customize things. So to do this, we want to go to MIA, Chinese settings. And there's only really two tabs here that you have to worry about, the options and active fields tab. The about tab is just information about the add-on and stuff. So the active fields tab is where you actually customize card types and note types and things like that. And options is where all the other things that you control are. So the first thing here is just what profiles the add-on is active for. So by default, it's going to be activated on all profiles. But if you wanted it to only be activated for certain profiles, you can select the profile and do add. You can add multiple profiles if you want. To remove one, you just choose that profile and then click remove. So that's pretty straightforward. Next, we have generation. So the default reading type is what type of reading is going to be generated when you're at a note type that doesn't have a specific reading type specified. So basically, if we look at the active fields tab that we'll get to in a second, we can see that, for example, right here, we have note type, MIA Chinese Taiwan, and then we have one row for each of the fields. So we can see that, for example, the expression field on the front of the card, we have the reading type set to Bopomofo. So what this means is that when you generate on the MIA Chinese Taiwanese note type, it's going to generate Bopomofo. But when we're talking about here, the default reading type, that's what it's going to do when you're in a field which is not specified in any specific way in the active fields chart here. So for example, if we go into the basic note type, and the basic note type is not specified at all on the active fields columns over here, and we post some Chinese, then it's going to generate pinyin because that is the default reading type. Whereas if we were going to put it to Bopomofo and then regenerate it, we see that it's Bopomofo. So that's the default reading type. The Bopomofo tones to numbers. So when this is checked off, like I explained earlier, the Bopomofo tones are going to be expressed in the form of numbers 1 through 5, 5 being the neutral tone. If you uncheck this and hit apply, now when you generate Bopomofo, it's actually going to have the little checks right here, the little lines, just like in the original Bopomofo. So you can change that at any time according to your preferences. So here we have the generation. So this has to do with the field that is adding the either a simplified version of the sentence, traditional version of the sentence, or just the alternate field. So basically how this works is the alternate field is the one that's on the MI Chinese China note type. So it's the one where if you paste in simplified, it's going to generate traditional. If you paste in traditional, it's going to generate simplified. And it's very flexible. So by default, we can see that the alternate field is set to traditional. But if, for example, we removed the traditional, I guess these are all my different field names from all my profiles. If I removed the traditional and instead I added, for example, audio on front and then hit apply. So now what it's going to do is on any card that has the audio on front field, when I generate a sentence, so here I have a simplified sentence and I generate, well, it's going to put the alternate version in the audio on front. So we can see since I pasted in a simplified sentence, it put the traditional version of the sentence in the audio on front field. Whereas if I paste a traditional character sentence in the expression field or in any field and generate, we can see that it put the simplified version. So you can specify what field you want to be the alternate field right here. And if you want, you can have no alternate field. You don't need to have one if you don't want. Now, what these options right here are is when there's already something in the alternate field, you select what you want it to do. So overwrite means even if there's already something in that field, it's going to remove what's currently in the field and just dump the new output. If empty means it's only going to output into this field if the field is currently empty. If it's filled, it's just going to ignore it. Add with separator means that if there's already something in the field, then it's going to add a space and you choose what the space is here. This BR is just by default one line break. And then it's going to add it after that. So for example, let's say that I made the audio on front field, the alternate field, and I did add with separator. So now if there was already something in this field like this, and I pasted in the Chinese and I generated, see, it added a line break and then added the sentence there. And if I go ahead and add this and generate it again, it's going to, again, add a line break and dump the sentence there. Whereas if I do overwrite, then what's going to happen is when I paste in a sentence and generate, it's going to remove what was in the field previously and dump the new output. So that's how that works. And then so the simplified field, this is where it's only going to generate simplified characters. And so if you paste in simplified, it's going to generate simplified characters again. If you paste in traditional, again, it's just going to do simplified. So I guess I'll just demonstrate that real quick. So if I made the audio on front field, simplified field, and then here removed the original simplified, and I'll remove this one as well. So now we have the simplified field set to simplified, and then we have it on overwrite. So now what's going to happen is if I paste in a traditional sentence, traditional character sentence, and generate, it's going to dump the simplified in the audio on front field because that's the one I specified as a simplified field. If I paste in a simplified sentence and generate, it still generates the simplified one. So basically the difference is the alternate field generates the opposite of what you originally pasted in, and the simplified one generates simplified no matter what. And then again, the traditional field is the same way, except it generates traditional no matter what. So what I would do personally is probably just use the alternate fields and then not use the simplified or traditional, because really the idea is that you want to see the other version of the sentence. There's no real reason to have two of the same version of the same sentence. But we just wanted to give you guys as much flexibility as possible. So here are the options, and then these are all the same as well for what happens. So that's for the generation of alternate readings. Here we come to the colors, and this is pretty straightforward. You can just change the color to whatever you want using hex values or this color picker here. So here are the default colors for Mandarin, and that's for the Bopomofo and for Pinyin. And then for the Cantonese tones, it has to be separate because there's more total colors that you need because there's more tones in Cantonese. So then here coming to the bottom. So this right here is in-time conversion. So this is probably easier to just show rather than try to explain. So if I put this to traditional and Bopomofo. And then I put the reading type back to Pinyin. So what this is going to do is, let's say that I post a simplified sentence and I generate the readings in the form of Pinyin. And now if I actually view the card, we see that it's showing up as traditional characters and Bopomofo. So what's happening is, although the contents of the field have not changed, the field still contains simplified characters and Pinyin. It's converting it in real time using JavaScript code that's on the card. You can see you have this crazy amount of JavaScript here on the card. It's converting it to traditional characters and Bopomofo. So what this can allow you to do is, let's say that in general, you learn the mainland style of Chinese, and so you're normally reading traditional characters and Pinyin, but you're trying to improve your ability to recognize traditional characters. Well, what you can do one day is just come here, turn on real-time conversion into traditional characters, and then do all your reps as traditional characters. And then at the end of the day, you could just put it back. So the cool thing is, it's in real-time conversion when you view your card. It's not actually changing the contents of fields. So you can change this at any time. And then, yeah, you can choose to convert them all into traditional, all into simplified, or you can convert them all into Pinyin, all into Bopomofo. So this just gives you flexibility if you want to just one day have a practice session and do all your reps in a different way than what you normally do. So next we have the traditional icons. This is super basic, doesn't really change any functionality, but if you click turn on traditional characters, now the two buttons right here, the generate readings button and the delete button, are going to be with the traditional characters instead of the simplified characters. So if you're mainly using traditional characters, you might prefer that because some people don't like the simplified characters, so now you can have whichever one you want there. And then here, reading font size. So this is for the small, either Bopomofo, Juping, or Pinyin that appear above the characters. It's the percentage of the font size. So for example, if I made this 25, hit apply, and now viewed one of the cards, we can see that the readings are super small because it's 25% of the font size that it would be otherwise. I don't remember off the top of my head what the default font size of the card is, but it's 20% of that. But anyway, 75% I think looks pretty good. I have to reload it. It's about this big, but if you want to make it bigger, you can do that if you want to by just changing the percentage here. So those are all of the settings on the Options tab. Now let's go over to the Active Fields tab. First of all, we're going to go over up here to the top. So this auto CSS and JS generation, what this is the add-on's going to automatically change your note type. So it's going to be changing the note card template over here, what you find in these three boxes, to keep your cards in accordance with what you have on this chart right here. So if you try to just manually go and edit one of the note types so that, well, it looks like I accidentally broke something here, but if you try to manually go in and change the way that the card is formatted to make it how you want it to be, then by the time you close Anki and reopen it, you're going to find that it's going to have returned back to what it was before, because if this button is checked off, then the add-on's going to make sure that all of the CSS and JavaScript code in your cards matches what you have on this chart right here. So you can't just go in and change it manually by default. You have to go and actually use this system that we've created here to change it through the add-on. If you don't want to do this and you do just want to do everything manually, then you can uncheck this box. You can see this is all grayed out, and now it's just up to you to manually code everything how you want. But I think for most people, including myself, because I don't know how to code, you're not going to want to mess with that. You're going to want to keep this on and just let the add-on manage all the code for you, and you just deal with this more simple interface. So that's what's up with here. Here on the right side, we see that this is the option for it adding the note types automatically. So again, the thing is, if you go and you try to delete these note types, so let's go ahead and say, okay, I'm going to delete MIA Chinese. So I deleted the Hong Kong and Taiwan ones. So what's going to happen is if I close out of Anki and then reopen it, and I go to manage note types, I'll see that the add-on automatically recreated the Hong Kong note type and Taiwan note type. And again, the reason for this is that what the add-on is going to try to do generally is keep your Anki collection in sync with what you have on this tab of the settings. And so if you delete one of these note types, but it's still in the chart over here, it's going to not be able to stay consistent. So it's going to automatically generate the note type so that it can keep it consistent with this chart. So as long as these three boxes are checked off, it's going to automatically generate the note types. But let's say that you're learning mainland style Mandarin and not Taiwanese Mandarin or Cantonese, and so you don't want those extra note types. Well, you can uncheck these boxes, and that's going to stop it from automatically generating it. So just by unchecking the boxes, that doesn't delete the note type. The note type is still going to be there. But now if I delete them, they're not going to come back. If I restart Anki, they're still going to be gone. So this is what you can do if you don't want to have as many note types. You can just uncheck the boxes here and then delete them, and then they won't come back. Now to go on to how this chart works. So basically, if you wanted to customize a note type, so let's just say that I wanted to add readings to the basic note type. So here we have basic, there's front and back. So let's say we wanted the front to function similar to the MIA Chinese note type, where it's going to show no readings on the front, but then readings and tones on the back. So what I can do is go into the settings, go into the active fields tab, and so I have to choose what I want to happen for each field of each note template. So here, this first one is profile. So this can be for all profiles. And then, so here I choose the note type. So here I'm going to choose basic. So here I have a bunch of different basics here because it's for all my different profiles. So actually I'm going to limit the profile to the one that I'm currently on now, the temp profile. Now you can see it limited the number of card types available. So now I'm going to choose the basic note type because that's what I'm going to try to change here. Then you have the cards. So there's only one card associated with the basic note type. So no option there. Then you got to choose whether you want to control the front or the back. So first, let's just choose the front of the card. Oh, sorry, these are the fields, not the front of the back of the card. I just got confused because the front of the card is called front and the back of the field is called back. So let's say I want to control the front field because that's the one that we're looking at here, the field called front. Then we're controlling whether this effect we want to be on the front, the back, or both. So let's just choose on the front. And then here we have the reading type. So Hanzu is when it's just the characters. Oh, look, it has tooltips to tell you which one it is, so that's nice. So Hanzu means it's just the characters, no reading. Colored Hanzu means it's just the characters, and the characters color-coded for their tones, but it doesn't have readings. Hover means it's going to show you the readings when you hover over them with the mouse, but not when you're not hovering over it with the mouse. Colored hover means when you hover over it, it's going to show you the readings, and it's going to show you the tone color when you're hovered over, but not when you're not hovered over. Hanzu readings means it doesn't show the tone colors, but does show just the pinyin or bopomofo or jutpin reading. Colored Hanzu reading is the same as the last one, but it also shows color coding. And then reading means just the readings with no Hanzu at all. So it will just be the pinyin. And then colored reading is just the reading, but the reading itself will be color coded for the tones. So that's what these all are. So let's say that on the front of the card, we want it to just be the Hanzu, so with no readings or anything. And then we want it to be pinyin. So I'm going to do save changes. And I'm actually not sure if it added a row or actually, so I accidentally just changed a row instead of adding a new row. So I just messed this up. So luckily I can just click this button right here, restore defaults, in the case of messing something up like that. So if you click on a field here, you'll go into the mode where it'll be editing the field. Then it'll say cancel unless you make a change, in which case it will say save changes. But because I don't want to save changes, I'm going to click on another field, hit cancel. Okay, so now let's go and re-add it again. So temp, basic, card 1, front of the card, Hanzu, pinyin, add. So you can see I added a new thing at the bottom of the row. And now let's make another one where it's the same thing, basic, card 1, but this time it's on the back of the card. And when it's on the back of the card, it's going to be colored Hanzu reading. We're going to add that. So now when I hit apply, it's going to automatically adjust this note type to correspond to what I just specified in the settings. So now when I click on the card type, we can see it automatically added in the appropriate JavaScript. So now when I generate readings, it's going to generate the pinyin. And when I view the card, we can see that on the front, it's just the text. And on the back, that's weird. It's not showing the... Oh, I see. So the problem with this card type is that you don't want to use this front side code. You want to actually repeat the front of the card. So what you want to do is actually have the front of the card shown. And then here, I have to make it redo the settings, apply. So here, now let's try it again. So go to the basic, generate, look at the card. And there we can see that on the front, it has no readings or tones. On the back, it does have the readings and tones. So yeah, so when you're using the MIA Chinese add-on, make sure you don't use, this thing, the front side syntax. You got to make sure that you actually just repeat the front of the card on the back of the card. Because the way that it's functioning is that you have the field front. And so on the back, the add-on is saying, as you can see the code here, color it and use the readings. And then here on the front, it's saying, just show the Hanzu, ignore the readings. So yeah, that's pretty much all of the features of the add-on. It might take a little time to get used to how things work on this active fields tab, but it's the same as the MI Japanese add-on if you've looked at that. And yeah, basically it's just determining what's going to happen for each field. So like again, just to go over it, you can see that for this one, for the temp profile, on the note type called basic, on the card type called card1, on the field called front, when it's on the back of the card, that field is going to be displayed as color Hanzu reading, which is when it has the tone coloring and the pinyin readings on top, and the reading type is pinyin. Whereas if I was going to change this reading type to Bopomofo and click Save Changes, so both these rows are for the same field, and so it's kind of competing. So I think I have to change them both to Bopomofo, and then, yeah, it will generate the Bopomofo. So there you go. Hope you could follow this. Sorry that this video is pretty messy. There's just so many different features that it was hard to get a cut of this video that was cleaner than this one. But if you have any questions, post them in the MIA server and we'll help you guys out. So yeah, thanks so much for supporting. Please give us feedback on this add-on, report any bugs that you have in the MIA server in the dev section, and hope that this is useful to you guys. So see you later.